Hey guys, I want to show you how you can double the amount of damage that you deal to enemies on Borderlands 2, and I'm talking gun damage, equipment, and also action skill. This is a brand new type of exploit that we're able to do now because of this new DLC, Commander Lilith in the Fight for Sanctuary. In this DLC, they've added areas where you can become infected and eventually take enough damage to get down. Those areas are indicated by a bar at the top of the screen that you see right there. There's a skull and then a yellow bar going up, letting you know how much infection you're taking on. Well, there's a part during the story where you go on a mission and meet Cassius, a scientist that has an antidote for this infectious gas. You provide him with a blood sample, and in return, he provides you with immunity to the gas. So anytime you go into these infected areas, you no longer take damage. In addition to being immune in these certain areas, it also increases the amount of damage that you deal to enemies by almost 50%. And the way it's supposed to work is that you're only supposed to have this 50% damage buff in these very small infected areas around the DLC, but with this exploit you can take that almost 50% damage buff and use it on any enemy or any boss in all of Borderlands 2, and that includes all of the DLC. And I'll show you guys how to do it and how it works. So right here I'm doing a critical hit shot on this guy right here, and the critical hit is 3,381. This is before I go and get all buffed up, and I'll show you guys the amount of damage I do after. To set this up, you need to have completed the storyline missions to the point where you have killed Cassius and gotten the antidote so that you're immune to the infectious areas. Next, you want to head to the Doll Abandon, and it's going to teleport you to this location next to a catch a ride. So get into a vehicle, you have to have a vehicle, and drive just right around the corner right here. There's going to be an infected area where you're going to set this up. You want to drive the vehicle just in between these rocks. It's going to stop you, and once you stop, that's fine. Jump out of the vehicle and get into the infected area, but just stand right in front of the vehicle. You don't have to like go all the way into it. You'll notice when you stand inside of the infected area, that skull with that infection bar will come up, but then it will go away because you're immune now. And also, while standing in the infectious gas, you'll notice that the enemies will be lit up yellow, indicating that you are now dealing more damage to these enemies. So you need to stand just inside that infectious gas so that you see those green bubbles on your screen, and also the enemies are still lit up yellow. Once you're at that point, you want to spin around and get back into the vehicle. While getting into the vehicle, while still standing in the infection, it allows you to keep it. So right here you can see I'm in the vehicle and I've got the green bubbles and then almost like the green veins around the outside of the screen. This indicates that I am buffed up and I will be dealing at least double damage, maybe a little bit less, sometimes a little bit more, depending on the weapons that I'm using. Once you're in this state, you can fast travel anywhere you want to go and you will keep it. It doesn't matter which DLC you're in. So I'm going to travel back to Sanctuary. You can see I still have the green bubbles on my screen, indicating I'm doing a lot more damage. So I'm going to do another critical hit with the same sniper, and before it was a little over 3,300, and now it's like over 9,200. So that's even more than 50% damage. Again, this is going to vary depending on the weapon that you're holding. Sometimes SMGs only give you about 20 to 30%, and then some snipers like this will give you over 50%. I'll show you guys some comparisons. So here's a sniper here. Before the buff, up at the top, it was 9,800 damage with a critical hit. Then after the buff, it was 152,000 damage. Here's a conference call. So before the buff, it was 9,743. Then with the buff, it was 14,534. And then for the Sandhawk, before the buff, it was a little over 37,000, and then with the buff, a little over 64,000. So that one is almost 50% increase. So there are some things that you can and cannot do if you want to keep this damage buff going. If you get downed, you're gonna lose it. If you quit the game, you're gonna lose it, obviously. If you go into another infected area where that skull and that bar show up at the top of the screen, it's going to immediately go away, and you're gonna have to go back to the Doll Abandon and set it up again. And with that being an issue, I wanted to see what bosses you could get to with this damage buff and keep it. So you can get to Uranus bot. You can travel all the way from the front of Helios Fallen and make it back here and keep it. You cannot get back to Cassius and farm him or get to to Hector, because in the Mount Scarab Research Center, there's an area right here that has that infectious gas. And once you see that skull with that bar up at the top come up, then you'll know that it's about to go away when you walk out of that area. You can get into Haderax's arena and keep the buff. You can see that we have the green bubbles on the screen, and the way to make it here safely is to use the fast travel to go to the burrows. That fast travel is going to put you almost right in front of the access point to this arena. But yeah, we absolutely wrecked Haderax with this damage buff. It was very useful in this fight. One really good place to use this damage buff is in Digistruct Peak. If you're trying to get your OP levels, you can make it into this area and you can see the screen. We've got it right here. This might be really helpful if you're trying to go fight Master Gi or maybe Hyperius. And I need to be a little bit more clear about how to keep this regarding getting down. Originally when I said getting down, I meant if you completely bleed out and you have to teleport back, you won't keep it. But if you get revived before you completely bleed out, then you will keep it and you'll be fine. But I hope this helped you guys out, and we'll see you next video.
Awesome!